I'm going to show an open source platform for remote development called Gitpod. If you're like me, you write a lot of code, and the traditional way of writing code has been downloading an IDE, having that locally on your machine, and then using that to write your code. But not everyone has the machine or the laptop or the desktop with enough power to facilitate that. And so this need to have development environments that are very ephemeral and you can spin them up very quickly in the browser really opens up the possibility for new ways of collaborating, for new ways of writing code, even if you don't have the machine to make that happen. So Gitpod is something that really helps with that. So we're going to be looking at that today, just doing an overview, my quick thoughts, my quick opinions about it, and where I really see this being really useful, and how it compares to. I'm not gonna go through the exact comparison, but you might have heard about GitHub code spaces. It's something that kind of I think they play in the same space. They're a little bit competitive. At least that's what I see. But in the session today, if you haven't heard about Gitpod, we're gonna be looking at that and going through. So. The traditional way of doing things, if you can think about it, is having projects in GitHub, and this is coding environments. So in here is one of my Python lectures I've done in the past, and all the scripts for that lecture are all available in here. So it was a lot of work that went into this. So let's take, for example, working with Python functions. Now, this is code here. It was a tutorial I created for a course. And if you wanted to follow along, you can go through here this. But if you think about the workflow of me having to make edits to say this course, it's been out for a while. It's a little bit old now, and I would have to literally download this, clone this repo to my machine, and make my edits and push them back. Of course, you can come in, and I think where is that it changes on me all the time. You can come in here, edit this file, but everybody will agree that this is not an editor. There is not syntax highlighting. There's a lot of things that you just don't get if you try to edit files here. Maybe one off in a quick situation, you can edit something here really quick and push it back. But this will not be my development environment per se. So we need a way to make changes to code and to push it back. And what we're left with is literally downloading an IDE and connecting cloning this repo to make that edit. But what if you have a tablet? What if you want to even develop on a mobile phone where all you have is a browser and you can log in and you can want to do work, right? We're seeing this push where in the past we went from centralized computing to more of a client server approach where the client was doing a lot of work. Now we're going back into the client becoming very thin. So your client is just your browser, and all the thick clients of IDEs and Visual Studio Code and a lot of those things can be embedded back into the browser to make that development experience easy. So your browser just connects and everything happens on the server side. So let's see how GitHub or Gitpod can help us with this. So we can have a development environment based on Visual Studio Code without having to install anything on the desktop, which could be time consuming and pretty frustrating to manage different environments, as you can think about. So if you go to Gitpod, a quick look, I think the website is pretty clean. I like the graphics there. It allows you to do remote development without friction. So a bunch of if you have a bunch of repos on GitHub and you want to maintain that and manage pull requests and keep your environment, your code or your projects up to date, this could be a really good avenue. So you don't have to keep cloning things locally, and it works on my machine and it works on yours. And part of this too is if you and we're gonna go in and see if you create a project that works in your development environment, because everything is container based, you can take that project and share that with somebody else, and they have access to that. Right? If I ask you to send me your configuration on your developer machine, how you set up your Visual Studio Code or your IDE, and so I can set it up exactly the same. it's not everybody can do that, right? So having this kind of flexibility is a plus, especially as we're moving into a world of more code base, and people writing a lot of code for data science and machine learning and all of that. So you craft your environment. It's all cloud based. I think it uses containers behind the scenes. Um, and you can share that with others. So tons of stuff. I think the promise there, there's definitely some good promise. Developer first experience. So just take a quick look at the website here, and then what we're gonna do is let's go ahead and log in here. Once you log in, let's see, let's refresh this really quick. So once you come in, you can always go ahead and log in. Try new. I logged in already, so I'm in. You can log in with GitHub or GitLab. I think those are the two. There's probably one I'm missing, but once you logged in, this is the workspace that you're gonna be welcome to with your profile. So in here, you can create projects, or actually you can create workspaces or projects. So let's just go ahead and create a workspace. Now, because I logged in and it's connected to my GitHub, you can see my repos all show up here for me to use. And then there are also some template repos that you can pull. So for example, if I wanted to look at my Python repo, if that was public, it should show up here. Let's go. If let's say I have some apps, I have Fruitech, DBT, a couple of things I've done, those all will show up here. So let's take one of the templates that they provided. I think there's one on. Let's do Python maybe. So they have a Python repo here on Django. So this repo is, of course, it's not coming from my GitHub. So this is a repo out there, but we can connect to that repo here. So all we're gonna have to do is just click on that, and we should have. I believe what's doing behind the scenes is, because this is all running in the cloud, is building a container image and instantiating this Visual Studio Code instance inside. And I believe behind the scenes, actually, it uses Thea IDE. If anyone is familiar with Thea IDE, um, which is a cloud based Eclipse IDE, which is supposed to be, I think they should call it out somewhere there. It's supposed to be vendor neutral, open source, and supports Visual Studio Code, and also Eclipse based. So that experience is this is built on Thea. So when you come in, once our project has opened up, you can see that experience here, very similar to what you see on your Visual Studio Code running locally. And you can come in. I think for most people, they like to personalize. IDE is one of those things that gets to be very personal to developers, right? So something as simple as being able to change the theme could make that experience a lot easier. So if you're more on the light side of things, you can change that. If you're more on the dark side of things, you can go ahead and change the themes. And then in here, we of course all see that code, and this gives us an environment ready for development. A couple of things in here. Let's say let's go ahead. This is a site. This is all the code. So that's the init file. Everything in there. You can come in. You can make your edits, and this is all ready to go. And once you make the edits, because there is a terminal here. Let's clear that. There is a full-fledged terminal, which again is within that context. So you can, within the container, you can install any dependencies. You can install let's do ls. So you can install stuff in here and treat it like your local development environment, what you do. But of course, this is container based, and is running running in the cloud. So this gives tremendous flexibility. If say you have an open source project, or you're trying to just contribute to an open source project, or folks are sending pull requests to your project, and you want to go in really quick and fix something without having to go down and install on a development environment and all of that, this could be a great option for that. And then of course, once you come in here, if you connect that to Git, which I did, I think if you connect that to Git, you can see all the pull requests, changes, create your own request, submit that, and that gets reviewed on the opposite side and managed. So the power of Git really comes in here, as well as just giving you that, I want to call it native development experience, but in the browser. And that's really this could be very helpful for folks. For one, I think one of the things that my one of my goals in the next couple going into this year, I know the year has kind of gone in deep already, is do more on the Python development side of things. So for machine learning and Snowpark with Snowflake and a lot of that. And so I'm going to see myself doing a lot of that more, machine learning, Snowflake, Snowpark, Python, and that. So that would necessitate me having to have a good development environment to do so. I use PyCharm locally and Visual Studio Code and everything you can imagine. But if you can just do it in the browser, whether I'm doing development or I'm just creating content, I think this could be a great option to consider. And then, of course, folks might want to install extensions. So if you have your favorite extensions that you have installed locally, those are all available. Let me bring this up here too as well. Those are all available in here as well. Let's see. Do they have anything for SQL? They do. SQL Server, DBT, you name it. So all the extensions that you might be using already today are showing up here as well. And then we've already seen Git, the research, and all of that. So let's go back and see what's happening on the Gitpod side. So we created this project. If we go back into our workspace, you can see that this is the workspace, which is again container based, that's running, and this is where our development is happening. You can decide to let's do a new workspace just so we see this really quick. Let's take one for fruit tech. I think tech with fruit. I think this is my repo, and I believe this repo should be empty. There's not a lot of stuff going on in this repo, so it's a very blank repo. And with this opened, if we go back, let me make a duplicate of this really quick, and I'm gonna move this over here. So if you go back now, we see that we have two workspaces that are running, and as many workspaces as you need. As far as I understand, well, there's actually 50. There's a limit of 50. Well, I actually don't know. I shouldn't speak on that because I don't know how many limits they have in terms of the workspaces. But what happens is these workspaces are not gonna run forever. They're gonna shut down, and you need to activate them. But if you want to delete the workspace and you don't want to keep it, you can of course just go ahead and stop it. Also, you can pin workspaces, and what this means is they stay longer and they don't get deleted immediately. But check on the documentation for how long this thing stays. As you can imagine, it changes pretty quick here. So that's workspaces. Again, you create a workspace, it gives you that native feel for developing. And I believe if you come in here, I saw somewhere here, you can share workspaces with others, right? And I didn't try this feature yet. So um, you can create a workspace like this, so a development environment like this, and copy the URL and share this with somebody else, and they have access to your workspace. And now you can have this collaborative development on the same workspace. How often does that happen? Where somebody is literally in your desktop, your development environment, your development machine, the same configuration and everything else, and you're writing the same code, right? Think about the what this reminds me of is the Google Docs, right? What Google Docs did for writing, you can invite folks to come in and collaborate on the same ground truth, the same source document. This kind of has a potential for that. So for people who write a lot of code, I think this could be very promising. All right, so that's the sharing and collaboration aspect. One other thing that they have too is how we initialize or how we instantiate these workspaces from the repo. So let's go back to my my repo here on GitHub. I have a couple of projects. So for one, there's the talent, Snowflake, a bunch of things. So let's say we wanted to open up a particular project in Gitpod, right? So how do you do that? There are a couple of ways. So you can come in directly from the repo URL, go to the beginning, and all we need to do here is type in gitpod.io and slash and do that. And so it's gonna take us to open up it's gonna create a workspace directly from just typing that in the URL. So very, very streamlined to do. I think this is Kubernetes. So it's, as you can imagine, Kubernetes is a little bit of a bigger project. So it's probably taking a longer time to initialize. Now, doing Kubernetes is one way. I'm gonna just duplicate that and go back here. I think that should still open. Is one way. Once you're within the repo, to open that in Gitpod Workspaces. The second way of doing that is they have a browser extension too that you can enable on you can enable in your Chrome, and that would make a button show up. So let's just check this one. It's taking a while, but I think it's gonna come up. So let's go in and take a look at that browser extension. So just go back to gitpod.io docs and check on the Chrome, because I'm using Chrome here for the demo. And we can go ahead and add this extension, right? And with any log, that extension gets added to, uh, let's just check, it's been added, 60,000. So I think they're growing. But if we go back now and do a refresh, I'm hoping this will be helpful. Okay, there you go. So if you notice now, I have this button here that just showed up called Gitpod. And now directly from the repo, if you don't want to put things in the URL like we did, you can just directly click on Gitpod on any repo you are in. It's gonna instantiate a workspace for you, and you can go in there and do development behind that workspace. So I think the Kubernetes one did open here, and now we can open that up in Gitpod, open up that workspace. While that's opening up, let me just duplicate this really quick, and then I'm gonna go back. Let's find another Hadoop utils. So this is a public project. I don't know if it's maintains long time ago. We can do gitpod on this one. It's gonna open up this, and how many seconds did this take, right? Just imagine you're walking around at the airport with your tablet in your hand, or with a very low powered laptop, or even your phone that has a browser. Today phones have Chrome browsers, and you have this project, somebody puts a pull request and you want to go in really quick and maintain that and fix it up, and commit the code back or push it. You don't have the time to set up Visual Studio Code and all the amazing configurations you have. This gives that really easy way to make something like that happen. At least that's the use case I tend to see, just making that really easy. So this project has opened. There's not a lot. You can see the markdown. Of course, if I make changes here, I'm not gonna do this. So let's say if I just did it this as demo for through tech, I'll make a really quick change .io. And here now, if I wanted to commit this, right, you can go ahead commit, and I'm not gonna do that just because it's not a good change. And then you can also make create a pull request as part of this, and the receiver, um, the maintainer of this project will get that pull request, and they can either accept it or deny. So just your typical Git workflow comes into play. And this could be development for your team. This doesn't have to be contributing to open source projects. You can have your own workflow in your team. And now uh, onboarding a new developer into a project is as easy as just having them click a button. And you can also, one thing I didn't play with it that much is you can go in and set configurations, YAML files. Let's see, where do we have that? But somewhere, is this in settings maybe? Um, um, It's not clear to me here, but somewhere you can set configurations and YAML files for specific environments. So if you're onboarding new developers to your team, think about configuration as code or development environment as code. And they can just have that YAML file as soon as they create a workspace. That YAML file initializes, and I think this is a gitpod YAML here. It initializes, and now they have the same configuration as everybody else. And you're not having to worry about the laptop capabilities and who has what, and it even has networking potentials for making sure ports are open and different things. So there is definitely more, I'm sure, if you go this is level 100. If you go to level 200 or level 300 of this, it could prove to be a very capable product. So this is what we've seen here. The next thing, really quick, is I hope the Hadoop one did open up, and it did open up by us clicking this, so that was good. And then we've also seen the browser extension. We've seen how to change themes. We've seen the CLI as well. So let's open up a new workspace. I'm gonna make sure to let's just go back. I like to clean things up. Let's just clean things up here. I don't want to have let's just go back. Gitpod. I don't want to have too many of this running. So once you're done, we can just go ahead and delete things so that this space, even if you don't delete it, it's gonna, I believe, it goes to sleep and then like this, and then after a while, it probably should be should go away. So just go ahead, clean stuff. If you wanted to, now if you wanted to download that, you can go ahead and download it. If you wanted to share it, invite somebody to collaborate, you can go ahead and do that. So that's the demo we have for Gitpod, Gitpod, which allows for a browser-based development environment. It's been around for a while. This is not something new. I think I've seen content on this as far back as 2019. I'm not sure when, if there is an about page here. I'm not sure exactly when this came up, but you can see the promise, and here they even talk about the comparison between Gitpod versus GitHub Code Spaces, because GitHub Code Spaces is GitHub own, which I'm gonna do a separate video on that. I'm not gonna try to mix it up in this video, but it's GitHub own development environment, so that you don't have to edit files like we saw at the beginning of this video. So it gives a more better experience for that. But I think what they're saying is that Gitpod is more cost effective, it's free, it's open source, and you can read the comparison here. My goal isn't to um, go into the comparisons, but just to say, hey, if you've never heard about Gitpod, maybe it's something that might be interesting to you or your team or your workflow, for quick and easy development. I plan to play with it some more and see how I can integrate it into my own workflow, to kind of cut down on the weight I put on my local development environment, but more importantly, to speed up development. If I have a quick project or prototyping something, especially with Python, which I'm planning to do more and more, or just functional programming as a whole, having an environment or an experience that is pretty straightforward, I think would add value to me. So there you have it. Check it out. Leave comments below if you have any comments or questions about this. And if you have any tools or technologies or topics you want me to make a video about, or to talk, or to surface it on this channel, don't hesitate to either direct email me or leave it somewhere in the comment section below, and I'll see what I can do. Again, thanks for watching. This has been Fru. You have been awesome. I'll see you in the next